put down who you want to be. Like put down who you want to be, that ideal identity that is probably far from who you are right now. And then start to build some habits or some must-dos and non-negotiables around that are hard, like you said before, but you will stay consistent on. Okay, otherwise you're relapsing into the old identity. You're going to keep getting the old result. And then lock it in and start making those shifts, because at least you've got, if anything, the model that you're aware enough you want to start shifting.
Yeah.
What else would you suggest?
I would always suggest, because some people that are probably stuck don't even know who they want to be or what they want to be or why they want to be that. That's usually what I see. They're just a bit lost, and that's why they stay there. So I would always say seek out feedback from the people that you trust, from people that are successful, from mentors, from your direct manager, if you trust them, if you think they've got your best interests at heart, if they know what they're talking about. I would seek feedback. I'd say, look, I'm stuck. I don't even know what I need to do or where I should be. You know, what do you see in me in potential wise? What do you see to be my biggest strengths? What do you think I could change about myself first and go further?
High performance people, Lisa, that's what we're talking about today. High performance people. And I think you, out of all people in business, have seen many, many, many people. I think, what am I fair to say, over 1,000 people you've worked with in business as employees, leaders, managers, et cetera, et cetera. You and I have had a lot of conversations, probably the last 12 months, more consciously around high performance people and how it is ultimately a choice to be a high performance individual. It's not like some of us are born high performers and some aren't. It's more a mindset piece. It's more an awareness piece or a consciousness piece. So really keen to be here today talking about this, because I think in any business, or in any wealth piece, or in really anything in life, if you don't have the mindset piece, if you don't have the high performance awareness piece, I don't think you'll succeed. I'm pretty confident on that. I've been there myself. I know you've been there, and we see it in business right now that there's certain people that are very conscious of themselves, their values, their beliefs, their habits, and they work on them directly. And as you say, they're coachable. And unfortunately, there's a large chunk of unaware, unconscious people that don't put the work in. How important is being a high performance individual in business?
Oh, look, you framed it up perfectly, and it obviously is, extremely important. We'll talk a lot about it today, and I think why we wanted to talk about it is that it's so impactful on you as a business owner or a leader, as to how great your people are. And, that's something that in my experience has been a learning, because I guess in my early days, I believed that everybody was coachable. Everybody can change. And I do believe that, but it starts with them. So the issue is if there's incongruence between you as a manager or a leader and where you're at, trying to coach somebody who's not there yet in themselves, there is this, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but I'd say the timing isn't right for that to happen. So I guess what we're trying to get out of today is to talk to leaders and business owners and people and individuals who want to be further in their lives, to understand what it's going to take. And so what I've had to learn through that is when it's best to cut losses early, because it's best for both people, because that's a learning for that person that may be incongruent, or maybe you two don't fit together. So yeah, look, there's so many things we're going to talk about today, but it is, in my opinion, I'm a people person. I love people. I don't necessarily love all people, but I love most people, and I see potential in so many people, is trying to access that. We want to access that, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a manager, whether you're an individual. We want to enhance and elevate.
Can I talk about the problem first?
Yeah.
But there is a huge problem in this high performance piece as an individual, because a lot of people, they think they are who they are, and they can't change who they are. They're just, their values are what their values are, their beliefs are what their beliefs are, their conditioning is what their conditioning is, their childhood what their childhood is. And so they feel this is just who I am.
Correct, yeah.
And therefore they have a closed mind on this is just who I am, and I'm going to defend who I am and the concept of self. And therefore it really is a struggle for them to ever become a high performer. Correct. Because they just are what they are, and they are what their mum was and their dad was and their grandma was and their grandma's grandma was, et cetera, et cetera. So how big of a problem is that people are just so closed-minded that they are who they are, and as you said before, they're not coachable because they're too closed mind on who they are and their identity.
Yeah, it's a huge problem in the sense that I've seen it with people that are very underdeveloped, and I've seen it in people that are very, very mature and would claim to be developed, and we still see it happen. And even I think I would fall into that trap unless I'm really conscious of my mindset. I've told myself things over the last week that I've had to pull myself up on, like, I don't have enough time to read books this week because my house has, been flooded by my fridge and there's painters everywhere and there's all these problems in my life. And I went, that's crap. Well, I had to pull myself up and say, you do have time. You're at the same time as everyone else. You're choosing to spend time doing things that are unproductive at nights because you're saying you're tired, but you could be reading. So you have to pull yourself up on those bad habits or limiting beliefs that come into your mind every single day, right? So I think that's a big issue. And what it really comes down to is this lack of self-awareness. I talk a lot about emotional intelligence all the time, and self-awareness probably being one of the most important parts of that 4 quadrant that comes into emotional intelligence. If you don't have enough self-awareness to understand that you're blocking yourself from opportunity and growth, then that's exactly where we need to start. Like, that's the big problem, because a lot of people tell themselves, I'm developed, I've done all this work on myself, I go to the gym, I've owned and run businesses or whatever, but they're still not where they want to be in life. But then when you talk to them about what it's going to take to be where you want to be in life, they say, yeah, but I need to have that first. And it goes to the be, do, have model, which we talk about a lot. People say, yeah, but if I'm this, then I'll feel this. It's like, no, you need to feel it, you need to believe it, you need to be it. And then you get what you want and get where you want to get to. And you love that model. So
it's such an important model. You're right. If you don't change the being or the human being, you don't know what to do, or you don't know what habits to do to shift that identity or that self-concept. And therefore you'll never have anything greater than what you have right now in your cycle of life. It is so critical to do that, to look at why is the self-fulfilling prophecy of me just continuing to develop the same conditions and the same outcomes, ultimately because I'm being the same person that I've always been. And it's this becoming, it's that shifting, that we can all be different. But it starts with the person, like you said. It starts with the values of the person. It starts with the beliefs of the person, like you said before, where, I can't read, it's too busy, but you called yourself on your bullshit, or you called yourself on your belief, and you went, no, I can do that. I can be who I want to be. I can be different. I can be a successful entrepreneur, but it ultimately comes to that choice for you to start doing the things that person would do. And then you'll have much more than you could ever imagine.
And I don't want to lose people with this, because I think people often go, oh, mindset, oh, babble. But like, it is just so critical that it's not stuff that you should ever tune out of. Like, you should tune in more. And I think that that's what we're trying to bring in this podcast, is trying to bring that consciousness to the things to tune into. So what I would say with this problem, if you're still not where you want to be, or you're not feeling like you're progressing, or you're going backwards even, it's like, tune into that, because there's a reason for it. Like, people with a high performance mindset, people who are self-aware and able to call themselves out, are able to tune in and go, well, there's a reason why I'm not where I need to be, or there's a reason why I'm frustrated every day, or it's me. It's not everybody else. The external locus of control versus internal. It is you. The world isn't happening to you. You're happening to the world. And the sooner you believe that, and you tune in and you say, I'm going to call myself out every single day, and I'm going to be that high performer, and I'm going to understand that it doesn't just take trying hard or working hard. It means just developing and growing in your mind. So I think that's what we're really trying to get to here, is that overcoming that problem. And as a business owner, I think it's even more important to understand that you can't help everybody become that, because they need to be ready. So when you're recruiting people, and we've gone through this experience lately, when you're recruiting people, you're looking for people that are ready, that have overcome that hurdle, that are self-aware, that want to work on themselves, that want to develop, that want to learn, that want to listen, that don't come in and say, yeah, I can do everything, I'm amazing, I'm already there. Because usually they're going to be probably a little bit set in their ways, depending on how that looks and sounds. Don't hold on to the ones who've got lots and lots of problems and they need your help to work through life and to sort their things out. I've fallen into that trap, and unfortunately, when it's early days in employment, that's not a good signal.
Yeah, so two things there. firstly, change is so hard.
Mm.
It's ridiculously hard to crack the conditioning of a person. Like, it is ridiculously hard. Even if you've got a aware person who is aware or conscious that they can change or they can be different, and they're open to constructive criticism and to being led and helped and helped to be different, change is ridiculously hard. Like, it is, because it is ingrained in your whole childhood and your values and your beliefs and your family. So the first step is you got to go, I can be different. Like, I can be so different to who I am right now if I'm aware and I'm receptive to it and I'm open-minded to it. That's when some cool stuff starts to let in and some change comes in. Unfortunately, like I said before, going back, a lot of people don't think they can change. They think they are the way they are, and that is that, and therefore they defend that. They defend that identity. They defend that ego. They take everything personal. And I think the first big thing is to shift that and go, no, I can be different. I'm not going to take everything so personal. I've got every ability to do anything in this business. I could be whoever I want to be. But the first step is definitely to go, I'm receptive to it.
Correct. And that's another signal, right? When you start giving feedback to somebody, you've got people who are like, oh, I want to soak it in. I want to hear what you got to say. I respect it. And I always say to people, when you're getting feedback from somebody, obviously they should be someone you respect and admire. But even if they're not, still listen, because people can see things that you can't. There's that Johari window and things like that, that show you that there are blind spots that we all have. So whether you agree or not, listen and take it on board and then digest it before you start defending. Like, when we're giving feedback, I always talk to leaders about it should never be personal. You don't attack a person's character or a person's personality, or, you don't label people when you're giving feedback. You talk to them about their potential. So you talk about, this is what we need to see, or what we want to see, or what will make you more successful in your role. And these are the gaps that we've got, in that. So, how do we get from A to B, essentially? Like, you're trying to show them or direct them or help them understand what those gaps are in the skills or the behaviors that you need to see to get to a higher level. You're not attacking them saying, well, you're just negative Nelly all the time. And that,
It's so important, because you're ultimately, as a great leader, you're trying to get the best out of that person, and you're trying to get the best out of that shift in being as a human, right? Before anything else, right? And so I think that's just so powerful, but unfortunately not how a lot of managers lead, because they just want to manage them at an ego level or a personality level or a character level and go, that person is just the way they are. That person's snobby. That person's a bitch. That person's this, or that person's disorganized, or that. When the reality is, if they're open-minded to change and shift and being better, a true leader wants to get that being or that person to shift and be the best version of themselves ultimately.
Exactly. And I think that's the big thing. Does a person dig beneath the surface first, seek to understand before being understood? I think a lot of leaders see problems in their business. They're frustrated, they're angry, they're stressed, so they go in on the attack because it's affecting them personally, right? Which is a normal kind of thing as a human being. You go into attack mode. We all know the history about why, etc. What they need to do is understand why a person's sort of misunderstanding or behaving a certain way. And as long as that person's open to listening and hearing and understanding, then you can coach them, and if you see that blockage is there, then that's where you need to think about why that blockage is there. And it could just be that you went in all guns blazing. You didn't go in and give context or framing about, we need to have a chat today. This is why, my intentions are to make you the most amazing person you can be within this business. I want you to succeed. We need to chat through some of the things that we're seeing, and don't do the old sandwich thing. You're amazing, but you're crap. Now you're amazing. Like, be authentic, be real.
Really
People will trust you. Yeah, if you care and you explain everything with a genuine intent, people will believe you and want to listen more.
How do you ascertain if a person is like open-minded enough or willing enough to be, for their being to be worked on with you as a leader? Like, how do you get the gauge to go, this person is open to change, they believe they can change, they believe they're not their current identity and they can be whoever they want to be? How do you get a gauge of that between an open-minded person and a closed-minded person in the context of business? Because, like I said before, a lot of people, unfortunately, generalizing here, they'll go, I am what I am. And I'll give some context as to how I see see people that way
Mm-hmm.
because I was one of those persons. I can't change. I am what I am, and I'm this and that, which is good. But there's a lot of things that I'm not at. How do you gauge if a person is willing enough to shift and they're conscious and aware enough that they can shift and be someone that they're not currently being?
Yeah, it is a bit of a process, I would say. But if I talk about it in kind of like a general sense, I guess, because I always believe in really trying to understand a person before making too quick a call, because it is easy. People are people, and we've all got very complex personalities and value systems and motivations, and there could be a whole range of things that are out of whack. So when I train leaders, I always train them on a bit of a cycle to go through to make sure, has everything been explained properly? Have you got a good, clear job description? Do they understand what's expected of them? There's a whole range of things, but my be all and end all for everything I come back to is attitudes and behaviors, which I truly believe are probably the most important traits you can have, because skills you can usually train unless there's a proper, cognitive problem with somebody picking up or learning. But when it comes to their culture fit within your business and the way they behave and the way their attitude is, that really needs to be addressed head on early to understand if they're open to change. So that's the piece I would always go in first on, and to sort of unpack that and say, look, as you know, this is who we are, this is what we believe, this is why we do what we do. What we've been seeing is that there's this or that happening, and it seems to be, incongruent or very different. Can we talk about that? I just need to understand why, and it's important for both of us that this is the right job and the right company for you and your future. So then you get to the bottom of it. And if there's that real incongruence, it is asking the question, well, are you open to changing that? Are you open to operating in this way? Is that what you really want? Because sometimes they don't. They're just there for a paycheck, and that's not helpful for anybody. It's like, no, go do what you're meant to be doing, because we're holding you back and you're also holding us back. So let's part ways on that. And usually people are quite good with that conversation, because they're like, yeah, you're right. That's probably the biggest indicator. Attitudes and behaviors are incongruent. I had a situation yesterday, actually, which was really fascinating. And I won't go into too much details because I don't want to divulge, privacy or anything like that. But had this person, young person, who is quite a gun in their role in terms of industry, know this person and know they're really great. They look good, they present well, but they decided for reasons that we didn't agree on that the job wasn't for them. And I wanted to understand why they felt that way. So we had a chat, and I could tell from the get-go they were really, really kind of guard up, defensive. And so I said, look, I'm just here to ask questions and listen. I'm not going to beg you to stay or anything like that. I just need to understand, right? So the guard came down a little bit, but some of the things that were said were so incongruent with the belief system of the business that even as I was listening, I was going, gosh, this person's quite young. They're very set in their ways. They don't want to do the job the way we want it done. We've got a particular model that we apply, that we really believe in, that we're not willing to budge on. And despite going through that and explaining that why, they were just so closed off to it. They're like, no, I don't do that. I don't operate like that. I am this. This is who I am. So it was very, very, and I just went, okay, that's fine. And people were like, you're letting them go? I'm like, no, it's the right thing for us and it's the right thing for them. So it's a bit of a long story, but I'm just trying to explain why it's just that incongruence with the culture and the values and the beliefs of the company versus the person. That's the big thing.
I think the I am is a label, and it can be a great label, because this is getting a bit woo-woo, but as a human being, you can say I am this as an affirmation, right? But then you can, if you're aware enough to go, well, I can also be that, right? I can be that. I can be whoever I want to be,
exactly.
Right? That's a certain mindset. But back to the problem, if they go, I am this, and they're set, like you said, in their ways and in their condition, that's closed-minded. That's
totally
coachable. That's like, what can you do as a leader? You can't get the best out of that person. But I want to talk about something, and we might talk a little bit of story here as well, because I think storytelling is really important. But on the other side of this, where you've got people that, they immerse themselves in a bit of personal development, or they do a bit of spiritual stuff, or they do a bit of the whole I am understanding, which we talk about, like the soul, the ego, that sort of stuff. These people that are aware they can change and they can be different and they can evolve and they can ascend, there's a lot of bliss in leading these sorts of people, because they're super excited and super motivated to like I said before, to ascend who they are, ascend their role, ascend their ability, ascend their high performance. They're super motivated by the mindset piece, the podcast, the being a different person because they don't like being stagnant.
Yeah.
They don't like being in a state of depress or a state of I can't evolve. We've spoken to some of them this week that we're very strong on potentially employing because they go, I want to be different.
Yeah.
I want to be in a different business. I want to have opportunity. I want to be a high performer. It's a super fulfilling piece when you actually find these individuals that, they're happy to point the finger at themselves. They're happy to be told different. They're happy to work on their blind spots that you said before, to go, I want to be the best version of myself. And I know I've got to have that mindset for then the business, etc., to follow suit.
I love people like that, obviously. They're the people you want around you and in your business. The big advice piece there would be when you get people like that in your life or your business or you work with them, give them experience, because that is true growth. So we always talk about the fact that, qualifications, university degrees, doing the mindset work, they're all good foundations, right? And they are very, very important. And the mindset piece more than anything, the personal development is critical to that, right? The education, it needs to be relevant. We always talk about that too. But it does help with growth in your mind. When it comes to then exceeding beyond that, it comes down to who you are around and the experiences you have, which are true growth. So you would remember when I first came to Strategiq, I was quite conditioned because I had been with ORS and had so much tremendous growth over 16 years there. But I was quite conditioned to corporate and I was quite conditioned to big business thinking, and that everything, I think, needed to be a certain way. So I wasn't really very open to operating in different environments, to the point where it scared me and really hurt to kind of change because I thought I was almost going backwards. Yep. But in fact, in time, I realized the more open-minded I became and the more experience I had and the more people I got to know and the more I grew and I flourished as a person. And now my mindset and my abilities are even wider because of that, So I think it's just when you've got people like that in your world or in your workplace, do not slot them into a job where they just need to hit KPIs and that's all they'll ever have. Even if you pay them great salaries, even if you pay them great bonuses, people want opportunities. And we've seen it this week and last, and I've seen it all throughout my career. When you're interviewing people, nearly the number one reason why they're there, well, there's two actually, I will say, there's two. They're either leaving a shit manager or they're saying there's no growth or opportunities there for me. And they're the two reasons I hear time and time again. So with those people, they're the ones you want to keep throwing things at. What do you want more of? What do you want to do? What do you love? What are their strengths? Highlight the strengths. Don't talk about the weaknesses too much unless you really have to. Highlight the strengths, focus there, give them opportunity, give them growth.
I think I've seen you change your conditions. I haven't given it lots of attention, but if I look back at a 2-year period that you've been in the business, you've done a lot of different things in business. You've developed properties. We're developing property. I think you as a performer, you as a person, right? You're very good in your own skin right now, and you're very, calm
Much
and
more confident than I was.
Confident.
Yeah.
I think you do a lot of work on yourself as well, and I think you can see you keep evolving because of that. And I think it is a certain mindset to go, I can be different, and to point the finger. And I think you do that really well. I've got lots of flaws, happy to admit it.
But you're aware of them. You that is a difference. You're very self-aware of yourself and you're quite self-disciplined too.
Yeah, but that was all I had back in the day. 10 years ago, and I won't do the huge story, but I've always been very disciplined because my old man was disciplined. We always talk about you and I, we're very disciplined people. And I didn't feel great this morning, both as you did your back. I was feeling crap and we're still here. It's we're innately super freaking disciplined, but it's not always the best thing.
No.
It's
sometimes you need to rest.
Don't work your ass off the wrong thing. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
But I worked my butt off, when I was younger and got to a point sort of early 30s where I had the discipline and the conditioning, right? Yeah. But I lacked awareness. I felt I was who I was, and I was ultimately where I came from, and that couldn't be changed. Yes. And then you get put on your ass pretty hard and you go, I'm stuffed. You go, I'm stuffed. And then you do enough sort of basic level reading. You read some of the greats Think and Grow Rich, Power Now, those sort of books. And you go, this whole I am, or this self-image, or this self-concept, that can be shifted. It's just your mind, it's your ego.
Yeah.
But under the ego and the mind is the person, or it's the human being that has feelings and beliefs and all these deep things. And I think that's where I started going, you are what you kind of, what you think, like if you're going to think you're really disciplined, but you're also an asshole, you're going to keep being that. Or if you're really disciplined and you're a stress head and you're only going to be where you are, well, then that's what you're going to keep getting. That's just a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yep.
But I started to go, let's just work on the being. Let's work on the person. You can have a business as big as you want. You can have wealth like you've never expected. But you've got to work on the belief systems of the person. You've got to work on the values of the person. And you've got to point the finger at yourself that you've got some things, like you said before, which is limiting things, limiting beliefs. Like, I can't read this week because my house is a mess. But you called yourself on it. You went, that's a limiting belief. That's a limiting perspective. That's a limiting value. And yes, I can do that. So in that moment, you shifted that beingness. And I think that person in high performance in business and is just so critical, because I have no doubt how far we've come in such a short time, but we keep calling ourselves on stuff. This isn't working. That's not great. We need to be like this. We can't tolerate that. We keep collectively building on the limitations of our business beliefs or values, so we keep evolving. I just think it starts with that person.
100%. And I think that's the thing. Like, we never stop growing. Like, I am certainly way more in tune, and I've grown more in a year, versus I have in the last 39 before that,
Massive.
And I know that that's not my ceiling. I know that I'm way more in tune with myself now. I know myself more. I call myself out more, all those things. But it doesn't mean I stop now. It doesn't mean I'm great and I'm there. No, I'm nowhere near there. I keep evolving every single day. And I think that's what we see when we see that blockage in some people that, say I'm there, or even older people, more mature people, we do talk about them being more stuck in their ways, but they haven't stopped growing and evolving as a person yet. You're not dead. You've still got life to live, and you've still got things to achieve, and you've still got, people to lead, and you've still got people who look up to you, so you don't stop growing. And just on the B thing and the upbringing, I think that's really an important bit. And I don't want to go too deep, because I know it does get a bit too deep. But I think that's where the disconnect happens. People see their life, I love my parents so much and really look up to them. But I also am able, and so I think that's why some people don't want to change. They're like, no, I wouldn't want to change who I am, because I love my family. I love my upbringing. I experienced some hardships and some hard times and some traumas, but I loved my upbringing and I love my parents. So why would I want to disconnect or change that? That's not what we're saying. We're saying your parents can still be amazing, but your conditioning of your upbringing, whether it be your parents, whether it be who you hung around at school, whether it be just what you developed as a person or how you perceive the world, some of those things do not serve you well. And that's what we're trying to change and disconnect from. Don't disconnect from your family unless they're not good for you, in which case I would suggest that you should limit the time you spend with them. But it doesn't mean you've got to change everything you are. It means harnessing strengths and challenging the limiting beliefs.
I completely agree. And this is, again, it's in business and property and everything else. Like, you come set with certain beliefs, and you've got to iron out if they're constructive or not, and keep evolving. Something I just want to touch on before we wrap this up. The be, do, have model, to reiterate, the B is like the biggest, most important energetic thing in high performance, I believe, in leadership and business and wealth accumulation. You've got a being, and you need to be different if you want to get different results. Something you do better than I say most people I've ever met is the do bit. Like, you're I always call you the executioner, or the executor. You execute. Like, you just do it. You're big on process, systems, getting shit done. Like, you're very big on that, which gives you a bit of a superpower, because if you go, this is who I'm being right now, and I'm getting certain things, I'm having certain things, but I want to be different. So I want to be, you're already doing some cool stuff, but you want to be that, okay? You're the person that executes, like really diligently executes, and you have to execute the habits to be the different person, so you then can have whatever you want to have, or you have a different result. How important is actually doing the habits and executing, or like doing the doing, right? Because a lot of us want to, or some of us, sorry, want to be different. They go, I want to be that person. I don't want to be this sort of leader anymore. I want to be that sort of leader. Or I don't want to be this business owner anymore. I want to be that business owner.
Yeah.
And they're aware that they can change. The next problem is a lot of people won't do the work to change. And I got taught by a mentor that once you know you want to be different and you're aware enough, you got to do the work. You got to do the habits. You got to do the systems or processes to then shift the values, beliefs, and identity.
Yep.
How important is it to stay diligent with the do bit, so then you start to change the result?
Big question, important one. I could go on forever because I get asked to coach on this all the time. Vanessa and I, a colleague at ORS, actually talk about it consistently because we do see this execution piece probably being the biggest missing piece of all leaders. Because it's such a skill that is lacking, and it does make such a huge difference in any size business and to you as a human being, right? Because it reduces overwhelm because you get shit done, you know how to manage your time, you're very disciplined in your approach. I think the biggest thing is that, look, if I give people feedback all day long, right? I do it all day long and I give people feedback, and I see some people grow from it and I see some people stay the same. I see myself giving feedback to people, looking at them going, you've got such potential, but I've told you this, or I've shown you this, or I've done this with you 25 times and I'm not seeing growth there. And there's two things I look at there. There's either they've reached a limit in their skill set or their mind or their intelligence, whatever the right word for it is, they've reached a limit in that role, right? And that does happen because implementation of complex things or implementation of really strict habits around time management and maintaining that discipline, it is difficult, okay? It does require tough thinking. It does require deep thinking. It does require you not to get overwhelmed and allow your brain or your thinking to take over your ability to just get in there and do something. But I would say to everybody, experience will help. So always, and I still experience it when I've got to do something really complex and hard, I'll sit there and go, wow, I don't want to start that. I really don't know where to start. I'm not ready. I can't do it. And I go, that's bullshit because you've done so many great things before. You've done this before. You can do this. Just get in it and start. And then I start planning. And I might make mistakes. No, it's not right. Go back, plan again. Yeah, it's still not working. No. But I get in and I stick with it until it's done. And that's discipline and experience.
Yeah, and I think just on that as well, like what you said then was so important as its own shift, right? You've done so many great things before. That is so powerful in its own right. I think another one I'd like to add to that in the same context is if you've got to do something difficult and you've got to do it consistently to shift who you are and how you're operating as a high performer. If you also look at the consistent doing of what you've got to do, which is hard, you're evolving or ascending to being a different person. And that creates a whole level of confidence and bliss attached to it to go, if I'm being this and I want to be that, and if I just keep doing it, I'm going to do crazy things like I've done before, and I'm going to be a completely different person, and I'm going to get a completely different result. That's quite an exciting reframe of doing the thing.
Oh, yeah. And the outcome of it is you get to feel really good about yourself when you do it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest achievement. It's not getting the pay rise or the bonus or whatever the result is. It's that feeling going, I just grew dramatically. I'm now really good at this, and I used to be terrible at it.
Yeah.
And even if it takes you years, like tender writing is my I can write a tender on my own now, and I can win them all the time, right? And I'm very confident in that. Talk to me 10 years ago, I would have said my work's getting rewritten. It was terrible. It was shocking, but I took on board everybody's feedback that I got, and I had some great mentors, so that obviously makes a massive difference. Then I worked on myself, then I kept writing, I kept trying, I kept refining, I kept going. And now, I can do it with my eyes shut, but it's always hard. It's always complex. I never want to start. They're always huge. But once they're done, it's like, wow, that was great.
So to wrap it up, what's the advice to someone that's in any business right now, or any individual that runs their own business, and they're there and they've been for a very long time who they are, and they're doing what they usually do, which is not change. It's just the same shit day in, day out subconsciously, and they keep getting the same result. What's the big aha switch thing? So someone that's not a high performer in any means right now, and they're not even labeling themselves a high performer, they're labeling themselves as an underperformer. what can they do to switch that and to take massive like action right now to then move towards being a high performer? Like what is it? In my thing, it's like simply, like really simply, put down who you want to be. Like put down who you want to be, that ideal identity that is probably far from who you are right now. And then start to build some habits or some must-dos and non-negotiables around that are hard, like you said before, but you will stay consistent on. Okay, otherwise you're relapsing into the old identity. You're going to keep getting the old result. And then lock it in and start making those shifts, because at least you've got, if anything, the model that you're aware enough you want to start shifting.
Yeah.
What else would you suggest?
I would always suggest, because some people that are probably stuck don't even know who they want to be or what they want to be or why they want to be that. That's usually what I see. They're just a bit lost, and that's why they stay there. So I would always say seek out feedback from the people that you trust, from people that are successful, from mentors, from your direct manager, if you trust them, if you think they've got your best interests at heart, if they know what they're talking about. I would seek feedback. I'd say, look, I'm stuck. I don't even know what I need to do or where I should be. You know, what do you see in me in potential wise? What do you see to be my biggest strengths? What do you think I could change about myself first and go further?
Yeah, such a good point. Such a good point. I think you're 100%. A person just trying to be different but having no awareness on how to get there is quite limiting in its own right. I think going to someone that you aspire to be like and going, this is who I am right now. This is who I'm being right now, what I'm getting right now, what I'm doing right now. If I wanted to be like you, what would I need to do? You knowing where I'm at right now, and then it would change the complete game. And I think that's the power of, like you said, mentors and leaders in business that you want to be like. Having an open mind towards them is your best chance.
Yeah.